Hello and welcome to Why Can't I Meditate? I'm Deb Phelps from Peaceful Wellness, and if meditation has ever felt confusing, frustrating, or just not what you expected, you're not alone. Hi friends, today I'd like to talk about one of the most valuable things meditation has taught me over the years. And not something that happens during meditation, but something that shows up in everyday life. Because while meditation can help us feel calmer or more grounded or more aware, the real practice doesn't end when the meditation ends. The real practice often begins when life happens, when someone says something unexpected, when plans change, when an email arrives, when we're stressed, when we're frustrated, when we're worried. And in those moments, something very interesting can happen. Sometimes we react before we even realize we're reacting. Now, most of us have had this experience. Something happens, someone says something, a text arrives, an email appears, a comment is made. And before we even realize it, we are reacting. Sometimes it's irritation. Sometimes it's worry. Sometimes it's defensiveness. Sometimes it's a whole story we've created in our minds before we even know what actually happened. And the fascinating thing is, it often happens incredibly fast. For instance, you receive a text message that simply says, "Can we talk?" And within 30 seconds, you've imagined losing a friendship, getting fired, moving to another country, all before the person has responded. The mind can be very creative. So one of the greatest gifts meditation has given me over the years isn't a quieter mind. It isn't bliss. It isn't becoming calm all the time. It's the pause, that small space between what happens and what happens next. And it's often much smaller than people imagine. Sometimes it's only a breath. Sometimes it's only a moment of awareness. But that moment can change everything. Before we become aware, life often feels automatic. Something happens, we react. Someone says something, we react. A worry appears, we react. An uncomfortable feeling shows up, we react. Meditation doesn't magically remove those reactions. But what it does, it helps us notice them. And when we notice them, we suddenly have choices. So the pause, as I like to call it, the pause isn't about suppressing feelings. It's not about pretending everything is okay. And it's not about becoming passive. It's simply creating enough space to simply ask, what is actually happening here? Instead of immediately believing every thought or acting on every emotion. So let's look at this scenario. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic. Immediately, the mind wants to tell a story. And maybe you're already doing that right now, because we've all pretty much had that experience, right? So we say maybe they were rude. Maybe they were careless. Maybe the worst driver in Wisconsin. Or maybe they're rushing somewhere important. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they made a mistake. And the truth is, we usually don't know. But meditation helps us notice the story forming. And that awareness creates space. And the same thing happens in relationships. Someone says something that hurts. Immediately, the mind reacts. We defend, we explain, we withdraw, or we begin building a case in our own head. And I know you know the one. The speech you'll probably never give, but you've already won the entire argument, right? We've all done it. But sometimes a single breath creates enough space to respond differently. Not perfectly, just differently. And from a nervous system perspective, that pause matters. When we're stressed, our reactions tend to become faster. The body prepares for action, the heart beats a little quicker, the mind begins scanning for problems. And that's not because we're broken, it's because we're human. But our practice of meditation helps us to practice slowing down. Not because life becomes easier, but because we become a little less automatic. We're now a little more aware, a little more able to choose our response. So meditation isn't only happening on the cushion or the chair, wherever you do your meditation. The real practice often happens in ordinary moments, in that difficult conversation, that stressful email, a disagreement, a disappointment, a change of plans. And suddenly you notice, I'm reacting. So that's noticing. That's awareness. And that awareness creates a pause. And that pause creates choice. So let's explore that together in this short meditation. Find a comfortable position. Allow your body to settle. If it feels comfortable, gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. And again, breathing in and breathing out. Allow yourself to arrive. Nothing to fix, nothing to accomplish. Simply being here. Notice the breath moving naturally. The inhale, the exhale. Without changing anything, just noticing. And now bring to mind a recent moment when something small happened. Not your most difficult situation, just a small moment of irritation, frustration, or stress. Perhaps someone was late. Perhaps an unexpected problem appeared. Perhaps something simply didn't go according to plan. And so notice what happens in the body as you remember it. Without judgment, just observing. Where do you feel it in the body? The shoulders, the jaw, the chest, maybe the belly. Simply noticing. Now gently bring awareness back to the breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Imagine creating a little more space around that experience. A breath, a pause, a moment to notice, a moment to choose. Nothing forced, just awareness. As you continue breathing, silently repeating, pause, notice, choose, pause, notice, choose. Allowing those words to settle, not as something to do perfectly, but as a reminder that you have more space than you sometimes realize. Even when emotions are present, even when life is messy, even when things don't go according to plan, there is still a breath, there is still awareness, there is still a choice. When you're ready, begin deepening your breath. Gently bringing awareness back to the body. Feeling the support beneath you. Noticing the room around you. And slowly allowing your eyes to open. Friends, life will continue to bring challenges. People will still say things. Traffic will still exist. Emails will still arrive. And plans will still change. But meditation helps us discover something powerful between what happens and how we respond. There is space. And in that space, we often find wisdom. Not always, not perfectly, but more often than before. And sometimes one conscious breath is enough to change what happens next. If you'd like to continue practicing with me, you can find this podcast and the newest guided meditations at Meditate with Deb on Palette. The meditation library is $5 a month with access to my newest practices from the last 60 to 90 days. The link is in the description. And certainly, if you want more personalized guidance in your meditation practice, I do offer one-on-one mentoring. And you're also welcome to join my free school community, where we explore meditation together. You can find this information at meditatewithdeb.com. I'm Deb Phelps, and this is Why Can't I Meditate? A place where even a single breath can change what happens next. I'll see you next time.